Okay, we are back and live on this Monday, Columbus Day, talking rock with you. Get some of your phone calls going as well in just a bit. But before we go to the phones, we'll go to the phones and welcome in an old friend, a phenomenal drummer, and a guy that's always busy with a bunch of different projects going here and there. He is Vinny Appice. Vin, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, Eddie? Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
Always.
Great to see you a couple weeks ago at the Dio documentary premiere, which you are great in. What did you think of the film?
You know what? I thought, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but when we got there and made our way to the theater, there were so many people there. And then the theaters, you know, everybody headed toward the theater, and the place was like packed. I think people was sitting on the stairs and stuff. But I thought the movie was fantastic. I didn't expect it to be that good. You know, the way they edited the film, and it just kept it really exciting. It didn't get boring at all. You know, usually a documentary can be slow. This film just kept moving along. It was great. And a lot of things I didn't know about Ronnie. You know, it was just amazing.
Having been in two bands with him, what were the things that you were surprised about to learn in the film?
I actually didn't know he didn't make that much money with Rainbow and even some of the early Sabbath, you know. I thought when I met Ronnie and started playing with him, I thought, well, he's played in Rainbow. He's got, you know, he's pretty wealthy, and then Sabbath, and I thought, you know, life was good, but he had some hard times, you know. And the other things I didn't know was Wendy has his trumpet. You know, Ronnie started playing trumpet. His father made him play trumpet and practice 3 hours a day. And Ronnie only told me about the trumpet that he learned how to breathe correctly for his singing. Mm-hmm. And I never knew he still had the trumpet. He never showed it to me. It was amazing when in the film Wendy opens this. Well, she pulls the case out of the closet and then opens it and it goes, "There's Ronnie's trumpet." I went, "Oh my God!" You know, I didn't know he still had it and stuff like that. So, yeah, we didn't Ronnie and I didn't sit down together and really talk heart to heart many times, you know, where how he was feeling. He was so strong and he was such a leader in the band, and my friend, and he was older than me. He, you know, I looked up to him, so I just thought he was invincible, pretty much, you know. So,
you know, the biggest thing for me, Vin, having watched it, that I didn't know, and that just blew my mind. And of course, you were on the record, so I don't know how involved you knew about this at this point. But the fact that the cover of Holy Diver, the drawing or the painting was actually staged as an actual photo that actually took place. When I saw that film, that blew my mind. Now, of course, you were in the band and on that record, but did you know that was going on?
Not at all. I saw that and I went, "What?" You know, and we talked about it when we did an interview at the Rainbow a month before, you know, you and I and Wendy. I didn't know that. And Gene Kirkland, who took the photos. No, at the time, they had the cover and it was done. And then they showed the band the cover, and I thought it was great. The colors are amazing. You know, it looks like the music sounds, you know. It's kind of dark, but it could mean different things to whoever looks at it. But it kind of matches the music. But I didn't know they went through that. That's incredible. Imagine putting chains on and jumping in the ocean and telling somebody to take pictures of me.
Yeah, I mean, for people that don't know, and I mentioned it a few times, but it's covered in the documentary in a reenactment. But the cover of Holy Diver with the priest with the chains and the Murray, the demon above him, the legendary cover of Holy Diver, that painting, in order to make the painting, they actually did that. They actually put a guy in a priest outfit in chains in the water in California, shot photos of that, and then use that as the template to do the drawing. And Gene Kirkland, who did the photos, unfortunately cannot find the actual photos, but there's a funny as hell reenactment in the film of them going out to this pier, these rocks, and getting dressed to go do that album cover. It's crazy.
Right. And the water was cold, just because it's California, depending on when they did it, which is probably our winter, which we don't get the winter like the East Coast, but the water is colder. Yeah. And they did that. And when they did that, Ronnie wasn't there and Wendy wasn't there. We didn't know that this was taking place. So none of the band was there, It would have been cool to go see that, and see what the result was, which was that brilliant album cover. So, so the artist that created the album cover just did an amazing job. And that was before computers as well, because you got to figure, like, now you would, kind of do a virtual thing like that on the computer.
Right.
But back in that was really 82. The way to do it was, let's go to the ocean and reenact it,
There's a scene in the movie, Vin, with you, where you take a stack of these, like now it was done now for the movie, but you go through these cassettes and you play these old tapes and stuff of you guys rehearsing back around the time of Holy Diver. Do you have a lot of that stuff? Did you save a lot of stuff from those days?
Yes, I got a lot of rehearsal tapes. And I started listening to them and transfer them to my computer. And there's a lot of stuff from Holy Diver where, like, Straight Through the Heart, and then we went to a slightly different change, not the one that's on the album. It was interesting, and then Ronnie sang it different. There's a lot of that on all the different songs. And because they said they were going to come over and film at my house, so I was able to get all the tapes I could find, the cassettes, and hook up the cassette player and play some stuff for them. Now, there was something in there they didn't use, which was a real, like, when we were recording Holy Diver, we're in the studio, and we started jamming on this song. Whatever it was just a groove, and we were all playing, and then Ronnie started singing. And it's really good, but they didn't use that, and I was surprised. And we didn't use it on the record, and now you listen to it, you go, man, that could have been another song. There were only two parts to it, but so I got a lot of that cassette stuff. I got a lot of Sabbath stuff live. I got some of the rehearsals on there, because I was always in charge of recording, especially with Sabbath, the rehearsals and the writing, so we could listen back the next day, and then we'd listen to something we liked, and then we'd start from there. So, that was kind of my thing with Sabbath and Dio to some extent. Then we had Angelo Arcuri, who engineered the Holy Diver and a few of the later albums. He started recording everything. You know that song Invisible, right? A lot of people don't know that. Well, we had a 4-track Tascam cassette player in the rehearsal for Holy Diver. And we had one of the riffs from Invisible we jammed on, and Angelo recorded it. Next day we came in and we said, okay, let's listen to that riff. Maybe we should work on that. So Angelo put the tape in mistakenly upside down, because those machines, you can play it upside down. So the riff was playing backwards. And we all started taking the piss out of him, like, oh, man, like it's upside down. Then we said, wait a minute, that sounds good. And we learned the riff backwards. That's how crazy we were. And the word can't wasn't in the mix, right, in Holy Diver, So we actually learned that riff backwards. And if you listen to that song, there's a riff, and the riff is backwards. And I don't remember which was which, but that's the way that song was written. Wow. And, it's crazy. We did crazy stuff. It was fantastic.
Did you last time you were on with me was when we did the special from the Rainbow for what would have been Ronnie's 80th, and we talked about the remix at that time of Holy Diver. Since that's been out for a little bit, you talk about those tapes that you have and everything. I mean, one of the really cool things about the remix is like the song Holy Diver, for people that have the remix, it actually ends cold now. Like you hear what happened as you guys kept playing on the fade out. What do you think of the remix now that you've had a little time to hear it since it's been out?
The remix is really good, but there's still some little bit of lacking of that original warmth of that mix that Angelo and Ronnie did. There was just something about it. The new one, it sounds like there's a tiny bit less bottom end on it and a little drier, but they're both good. And on the remix, there's an ending on Holy Diver, which we never put on the record. And the reason for that is when we record these songs, even with Sabbath, we get to the end and vamp out. I do a bunch of fills and everybody does what they do. And then when we know we have enough to fade out, then we play crazy stuff, like stupid stuff, or whatever you want to call it. So on the fade out, we did the 2001 thing. Boom, 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 boom. Just jerking around. And I didn't know we did that. And then I hear it. I go, oh, my God, that was just for fun, just for a goof, really. And here it is on the record.
Joe Barresi, who remixed the record, left that in. So if you have the remix that was recently released to Holy Diver, you'll hear a different ending to it, which I thought was really, really interesting. There's one other thing I want to ask you about Dio, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. I think it's interesting. So Vivian Campbell left the band first. You left shortly afterwards. Now, we all know of the history of Vivian, and Vivian's departure in the documentary is, although Vivian's not in it, his departure from the band is covered from Wendy's perspective and Ronnie's perspective as far as how that went down. But you, unlike Vivian, you are still, you have a band with Vivian in Last in Line, so you're clearly on good terms and a great working relationship and cool with Vivian. And also, you still are with the Dio camp, coming to the documentary, being in the documentary, being involved in some of the events. So how does that, do you ever get any pushback from either side? Because, from Wendy's side, you're doing a band with Vivian, and from Vivian's side, you're still involved in all the Dio stuff?
No. When we started Last in Line, Wendy heard about it, and she wasn't that happy about it. She was doing the Dio Disciples, but... you know what? I've learned not to make enemies in this business. I've learned to be a team player. I've learned to not burn bridges, Ronnie used to tell me that, too, about burning bridges, And I've learned not to do that, So Viv doesn't have a problem with me talking to Wendy, and Wendy doesn't have a problem vice versa. So, and luckily, I left those doors open because we got Last in Line going, because we remain friends. And then with Wendy, she helps me a lot with some of the publishing things that come up, and we keep in touch, and we're friends. So those doors were left open, and both of them have led to some success as far as, working with everybody. So I learned not to go, well, the heck with that. I'm friends with everybody I ever played with, and even bands that I left, like Kill Devil Hill, which couldn't be on time if they had a giant clock in the room. They just couldn't be on time. I was like, oh, I can't take this anymore. Okay.
And wait a minute, on time in terms of showing up, or musically in time?
Not tempo. The band was great. I played with Rex Brown from Pantera. He's a monster bass player. He's like, holy shit. It was great playing with Rex. And Dewey Bragg on vocal and Mark Zavon on guitar. But Dewey, his mother told me he would be late being born, because he's just, I would drive 90 miles. I'm in the desert kind of between San Diego and L.A., and we'd rehearse in L.A., and I drive 80, 90 miles, and I'm there half an hour before start time. And then I get ready, and then after about 2 hours, Dewey shows up, you know? And he lives in Hollywood. I'm like, dude, you're wasting 2 hours here, you know? So everything was like that. And eventually I just went, I love playing with the band. It was great music, great fun, but it's not cool to waste everybody's time, you know? And the other guys did it as well here and there, not as bad as Dewey. Dewey needed to watch. So
what do you think about Rex doing this Pantera thing?
Oh, what's he doing? I haven't even heard.
You haven't heard?
No. What are they doing?
Rex and Anselmo are going out under the name Pantera with Charlie Benanti on drums and Zakk Wylde on guitar.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, you didn't know this?
No, I didn't see that anywhere. I don't know.
You live off the grid you got power or internet in the desert? Where the hell are you, man?
Only when I go to the post office, I can use their computer, you know, and I'm cool.
You go to the library to get on the internet.
Yeah, I'm glad they're doing that. Those are I always said, why don't they get Zakk Wylde in the band and go do it, you know? His drumming wise, Charlie's great. You know, I don't play that kind of stuff like that, double bass, and I'm a different player, but that's fantastic. You know, because Rex kind of mellowed out with the solo stuff, you know. It's a little mellow, and when I heard it, I went, that's good, but, you know, I want to hear him growling, you know, and kicking some butt and stuff. So that's fantastic. Great.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. All right, so we're going to talk about your new thing. I'm working towards it. But before we get to that, last in line, Andrew Freeman, your singer, reached out to me because I'm in Vegas where I have a second home now, and Andrew lives here, as you know. And he reached out to me actually yesterday. We were texting, and he said, want to get you this record, want to see what you think. We're trying to decide singles. So I know you guys did the cover of A Day in the Life, but there's a full record in the can, ready to go, I guess.
Right. There's an EP that's coming out November 11th, and that has 2 live tracks from Europe. It has A Day in the Life, and then it has a new track, which is a really good track. It's an up-tempo kind of burner, and that's called Hurricane Allah. And that's coming out. It's an EP from Ear Music on November 11th, and the album's in the can, and it is going to be out next year, you know. So
and you guys are doing shows. You guys have because I know Vivian, I don't know what Def Leppard's schedule is, but there is, I know you guys have upcoming gigs, right?
Yes, we just finished 5 gigs on the East Coast. Then we do a couple of 3 California gigs starting the 20th of October. Then in November, we had 11 shows, but we had the scheduling problem. Something came up with Def Leppard, so we're only doing 6 shows, and then we'll make those shows up at a later time. They'll reschedule them. So that's in November. We'll be on the East Coast, Midwest, you know, Nashville, and a number of places like that. So we'll be out November, and that'll be it for the year. You know, until next year, we'll gear up for the album and schedule and tour and blah, blah, blah. So,
right. Well, if you guys get a chance to see Last in Line, check the dates. It's a killer show. You get some Dio classics, and of course now you guys have 3 albums of studio material to play of originals. So it's a really good balance. Last time I saw you was here in Vegas at Vamped, and I really liked how the set went because you did the key tracks of the original material, and then like every other song was a Dio tune. I thought it was just paced perfectly.
Well, you got to keep, you know, people want to hear those old songs they know, you know.
Yeah.
When you play new songs, they get it, and they like it, or maybe they don't like it. But so we got that set down where we keep it exciting. You know, here's the first 3 songs that we open for. The first song is our song. Then there's Stand Up and Shout and Straight Through the Heart, you know. Oops. So it's, you know, a very exciting set. And we've been playing that set for a while. We'll change a song up here and there. But I'm going in the other room here. And so we got it down. So we're looking forward to putting maybe another 1 or 2 new songs from the new album, you know, and see how that sits. So, yeah, the band is so tight, it's just ridiculous. You know?
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see you guys play live too. Always a great show. Tell me about this new thing now. You reached out to me about a new band that you're doing. I think it's a trio. Give me the rundown on this.
Yeah, so this started. The guys in the band are Jim Crean. He's a great vocalist, and he's played with us with me and Carmine when we do a show called Drum Wars. We book a lot of gigs, and he's the singer in that. And he's had a couple of small solo albums out. And the guitar player, his name is Stefan Hound. He's in France, and he's had a couple of little smaller albums out, and I played on a couple of tracks on each album. So we kept in touch, and then Jim started writing some songs with Stefan, and it started to sound very Sabbathy and Dio-ish. So they played me the stuff, and then we started rearranging it and maybe writing new parts. And then it really sounds like a Sabbath, songs, it's touches on Sabbath, touches on Dio. And both Steph and Jim are big fans of especially of Dio, So it's called Scream Taker, and we just kept recording. We never got together. This is done over the internet. Best thing is I recorded in my studio at home, and I can get whatever drum sound I want. I don't have to deal with going into a studio and, sometimes I go in the studio and they mic up the drums. They have like 4 mics on the bass drum, and it sounds good, but I got 2 mics and I know what I want to hear. And this stuff, the drums are like growling on this album, So it's a lot of fun for me. So it became, got a deal on Deco Records. So we made a new CD, and we're doing interviews and stuff, maybe some shows next year, So it's a cool album. It's really cool. It's heavy. It's dark. It's all in the same theme. There's no, let's do a pop song or a love song. I don't play love songs. I never did.
Well, it's great. It's really good. I mean, the song and the video you sent me, there's a video on YouTube that's very cool as well. And yeah, it totally reminded me of your era of Sabbath, especially like Mob Rules, Dehumanizer era.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the way that you got to hear we're getting some more copies. I'll send you a copy. The rest of the songs are like that too. And it's just a lot of fun now. I love playing that stuff. There's a lot of space in it, and the drums sound big. It's very exciting, and it's a good band. We will need a bass player when we start doing some dates, because Stefan played guitar and bass on it. So it was a lot of fun, So it's a fun band. It's easy to get along with, and I really love the music, So I'm just doing stuff that I love the music. That's the main thing, and I'm not, playing some other stuff that I don't like, making money,
Yeah.
So.
Do you see this stuff, like doing a band like Scream Taker, as more as a project, or is it really more of a band commitment, or is it just having some fun and we'll see where it goes?
It's all of those, because with Last in Line, with Viv being in Def Leppard, we got to work around that schedule. So when Viv goes like this last stadium tour, well, we couldn't do anything for that whole time. And so now what do you do? Luckily I got things I can do and will do. So this is cool. All right, we got 2 months we can't play. Let's book some Screen Taker gigs, or some other things that come up that are cool. So there's time to do this stuff, because if Viv wasn't in Def Leppard, we'd be a touring band. But, that's, there's a difference in money there.
Between Last in Line gigs and Leopard gigs. Yeah, I think probably slightly, right?
Yeah, there's a slight difference of comfort of travel and money. So, go figure.
Well, I always tell the story. I always tell the story that, I host Rocklahoma every year. And one year Vivian played it with Def Leppard, and they had the full backstage compound and main stage and 15 trailers and all of that. And then the next year they booked Last in Line, and you guys were out on the B stage in a little porta-john and a little trailer. And I walked in. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you were in the trailer at the time, but I walked in. I go, Viv, what happened to your career last year? Weren't you over there? But to his credit, I've always said this about Vivian. To his credit, he really. That's a testament to how much he enjoys playing with you and Last in Line, because he doesn't need to do that. I mean, that's a hard downshift when you're playing stadiums in the world to go play a club like you guys do at this level. So that's a testament to how much he loves playing in Last in Line, that he does that still and makes a lot of time for it when he can.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting on top of the world. You're in one of the top bands out there, and I've been there for a bit, but not as long as Viv. That's a great career. But I've experienced, the best hotels and some of the Learjets and backstage areas, and the comfort of it is amazing. With Sabbath and Heaven and Hell, and he gets all that, and then he comes with us, and some of the places I was like, "What do you mean there's no dressing room?"
Where there's no bathroom in the dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, I've changed clothes in behind the stage in a little room with dust and mic stands in there. There's no room to move, but I refused to go outside where it was cold and run to the van. So. But you know what? We all love doing it. And Viv, you look at him playing with us, and he's smiling the whole time. He's carrying all the weight of the guitar in this band. He's doing the heavy lifting. He's got to know all those solos again and crank them out, and it's a big challenge. So because we don't have a keyboard player in the background, we don't play to anything else. So. It's all on Viv there, but he's smiling and having a good time. So he's got to love it, because why would you do that?
And I think, and as he's told me, I think one of the reasons he loves it so much is exactly for the reason you said. He loves playing all that guitar. It's a completely different guitar approach than Def Leppard. He's told me that in Def Leppard, he almost sees the challenge more is the vocals, because he's got to really be locked in on that singing, on all those harmonies. And he said that in Last in Line, he can just kick back and be the guitar player.
Yeah, I mean, when we do have dressing rooms, if you came in, you see Viv changing his strings. He's there changing his strings like any guitar player, maybe a guy from the neighborhood. He's changing his strings. He got the wire cutter when it's on, cut the ends off the neck, the strings that are hanging out, and he's down to earth, and he's like, it's insane. It's like, man, he's really, he got no attitude at all. You send an email, he contacts you back. If something happens, he's cool. We ride in a Sprinter van. We do stop at Starbucks every morning because he loves Starbucks. So even if it's a really early, long drive, we allow 15 minutes for Starbucks.
So you got the timing all worked out.
Yeah, it's a great band. Everybody's cool in the band, and it's a lot of fun too. If it wasn't that part, he might, think about, well, I don't need to do this anymore. But and it's great to play as going back from Holy Diver on. I mean, and we're playing together again. It's fantastic playing with him. And funny is, he's from Ireland, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and we have the same feel. That feel, like I did with Iommi too. I locked into that feel and not rushing, and they play really steady, and it gels. It's really something. So,
last thing, are you in touch with Tony and Geezer on a regular basis? Do you talk to him much?
Not really, just via email, and birthdays come up and things. I'll say hi to Tone, and he writes back, and Geezer too. I saw Geezer at a festival a couple of years ago that Last in Line played. He was playing with Steve Stevens and Matt Sorum.
Deadland Ritual. That didn't last. That didn't last. That didn't last for the reasons we just talked about, of what Vivian's willing to do. Because I said that to Geese when he put that band together. I had those guys on. I'm like, Geese, you just came off of flying on private jets with Sabbath. Are you really going to get in a van and go play? And he's like, yeah, man, I want to do it. And when I saw him and he stopped, I go, you still doing that band, Geese? He goes, bloody hell no, I'm not doing that shit. You know? He goes, I'm not going. I can't travel like that. I can't do that. So, you know, Geezer a bit older than Vivian, but still, he just didn't want anything to do with. I knew it too. That's why I give Vivian so much credit, because when you don't have to roll like that and you don't have to do that stuff, to still do it is really impressive.
But you know what the difference is? That was a paper band. That was like, okay, Geezer Butler on bass, Steve Stevens on guitar. You know, all kind of names in the band. And Last in Line started as Viv calling me up in 2015 going, hey, you want to jam? I spoke to Jimmy. We're all in town. Yeah. So the three of us jammed at a small rehearsal place. We played Dio songs. We had a laugh. And then next week we did it again and invited Andy down because he was in L.A. and it gelled. So we were kind of El Natural, you know. It came together and started becoming a band slowly but surely. But a band like what they were doing was more on paper, you know. I assume I don't think they were hanging out together and doing that stuff, you know.
I don't know. The music was pretty cool though. I liked it. I thought it was good, but there's so many of those bands, as you know. And look, you've been a part of them with they're kind of like project bands. They come together, make a record, and they never even see each other, and they're never in the same room. I mean, there's a lot of that these days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, this band here, I know Jim for 10 years. Scream Taker, Stefan, I've known him via the internet. I met him a couple times. But the music's the right thing for it just gels with all of us. So that's why, you know, we're not, you know, going on tour just yet. And it's just a natural thing in its own way, too. So
the reason I asked.
Did you see the part in the movie where when I joined Sabbath, I said, well, Tony and Geezer were kind of scary looking with the mustaches.
Yeah.
And they were to me because I'm like, oh, I don't know what to think. I never heard those accents before, and I couldn't understand them. And I'm glad they left that in, because I used to ask Ron, I used to go, Ron, what did they say? You know, because it was Birmingham. I never heard those accents, and then the slang and the words they use, I never heard those things before. So I'm glad they left that in. I really liked that part of me that they put in there. So
it's a laugh out loud moment in the Dio documentary when everybody gets a chance to see it. I mean, the doc was in the theaters twice now, and I guess the next rollout will be some kind of pay-per-view. But when you guys get a chance to see the Dio documentary, we did have a lot of calls from people who did go to the theatrical screenings, and I've not heard one person saying a negative thing. Everybody raves about it. And the reason why I asked about Geezer and Tony, of course, they're both in the documentary also. But, you know, you guys played, I think you were a part of it. After Ronnie died, didn't you have a contractual obligation to play, or you played one show somewhere in Europe with Glenn Hughes singing?
That's right.
And Ripper, I think?
No, not Ripper. It was just Glenn Hughes. And I don't know. Yeah, it was just Glenn Hughes. And it was in England. It was one of the festivals. So we went over to the usual rehearsal spot in Wales. And Tony and I and Geezer, you know, we got our sound going. And it was weird. And then Glenn was there. And then said, all right, let's try Heaven and Hell. That was the weirdest moment. You know, we're going to play Heaven and Hell. You look around the room, there's no Ronnie. Right. You know, that was like his song. I mean, his voice, his spirit, the whole thing. And that was a weird feeling. You know, it was kind of really sad for all of us. You know, it just had the air in the room just got really heavy. You know, it was like, oh man, whoa, this is weird, you know. But then Glenn started singing. He's such a great singer. You know, we got through the song and it was cool. So I'll never forget that moment. That was the heaviest moment. You know, it was good we did that rather than just disband and then see you guys later and never do anything after Ronnie's passing. So that was heavy.
The reason why I bring it up is because I always wondered about this, is that the Sabbath stuff with Ronnie I just saw, I think they're reissuing Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules yet again. I just saw all the guys' social media last week promoting another special edition. There was just one like less than a year ago. But so that music and that era of Sabbath still has like this whole new appreciation to some people. I was there with it since day one, but for other people, there's this whole new appreciation. And in talking to Tony, who I am in touch with, he seems to be open to playing select shows or special things. Same with Geezer. I think, Geezer's not going to schlep out there in clubs with a new band, but if it's the right situation, we know that Ozzy, unfortunately, is going through a lot of health stuff. It's probably very unlikely he performs live. So where I'm going with this is in like a hypothetical situation, whether it's a Halford or a Glenn Hughes or a Ripper or someone like that, I think it would be amazing to hear you, Tony, Geezer, play the Ronnie era of Sabbath again live, even if it was for a few select shows with guest singers like that. You got any interest in that? Has that ever been discussed?
Oh, no, it's never been discussed. They do have my phone number and email address, but it's like, yeah, of course I would do that. I've been in the band where they've called me 3 times, hey, you want to play with the boys again? Wendy would call me for Heaven and Hell. Yeah, of course I want to play with them. They first of all made my career pretty much, and it's so legendary. Why wouldn't I want to play with that? There was talk of continuing with Rob Halford, maybe another album, Tony, Geezer, me, and Rob was into it, but it never materialized. Tony and Geezer should be playing together. There's that wall of sound just when they play together. They're so locked in that it's insane. It's incredible, And
well, that's what I'm saying. They should, and you should play drums. And then we've seen that. Look, we just talked a minute ago. You didn't know about it, but Pantera going out with 2 other guys, celebrating that music. There's no reason to not do. I know that Tony and Geezer don't want to tour specifically, but you could do this as like, you could come here to Vegas and do 3 shows, or you could do something in England. You could do it because it's 40 years or 41 years or whatever since Mob Rules. I mean, there's all these reissues and stuff. It'd be cool to do that. And of course, all of it with respect to Ronnie. It would never be the same without Ronnie. We know that, but it would be a celebration of that music played live, which is so great to hear live.
That's a great idea, and it's been long enough since Ronnie's passing, since it's not insulting or anything like that, or a money grab. It's just like, hey, let's go out and play this stuff, because the stuff is still selling. I was lucky enough. I was just a 20-year-old kid that got into this not knowing what I was getting into. I was like, oh, okay, Sabbath, and started with them not thinking this is legendary, and then the next phase was Dio, this Holy Diver and Last in Line album. We didn't know what we were making, that 40-something years later, this stuff is as popular as ever. Movie coming out and reissues and people talking about it. It's incredible. So I'm like, wow. I'm so honored to have done that, and I appreciate it, I could have went into some other band, some hair band or something, that meant nothing. This is so big. So I think that's a great idea, Eddie. Put it together. I'll give you 20% of my cut.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this. Next year, speaking of anniversaries, next year is the 40th anniversary of me doing radio. And for 25-year anniversary, Judas Priest played a private show. For the 30th anniversary, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss came together and performed for last time until just recently together. A ton of artists came out. We did this big jam in Times Square. The one when Priest did it back in for the 25th, I think you were there because Tony, the whole band came because you guys were on tour with them at the time. So it was at the Hard Rock in New York. You guys all came. So point being is I'm looking for something cool to do to celebrate. I don't celebrate every year the anniversary. I'm not that self-serving. But for lasting 40 years in this friggin' business for anybody is insane at any level. So it's something next year we should do. So maybe we do it. I want to do it here in Vegas. Geezer lives in Vegas. You're in California. You're right there. Glenn lives in L.A. He's right there. The only question would be if Tony comes over from England, but who knows? He likes to come to L.A.
Yeah, he likes L.A. Yeah, that's an amazing idea, and if it happened, it would be unbelievable. So
and we could give the money to the Dio Cancer Fund.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we make money past expenses, we could do something like that. This way, it's a celebration of Ronnie, too. I'm just working it out now live on national radio.
We're making a deal right here.
Exactly.
And, especially with all these reissues of Sabbath and Dio and the movie, everything's come out again. It's like perfect time almost when you think about it to do this. And you've been such a part of both of these bands. It's incredible, and especially with Ronnie, he absolutely loved you. You were his best friend, one of his best friends, and you guys got along together so much. He really talks so amazing about you. He loved you. You're like another brother, another band member. So, and you helped us. When we needed some pushes, some interviews, some blah blah blah. You were always there. So.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it would be a cool thing to do. I'm going to run it up the flagpole, and we'll see. I don't care when we do it, but that could be a cool thing. Last thing, and I'll let you go. I appreciate all the time. Did you? Are you going to go to the Dio bowling? Are you going to be able to bowl on November 17th?
No, I'm going to be flying on November 17th. So I'm doing a rock camp in New York City now that the tour's been cut. So I'm going to go fly and it's a Beatles camp, which I have ties to John Lennon, kind of.
Right.
So. Perfect for me, and I'm going to miss it. So.
All right. Well, I was going to try to recruit you to bowl, but if gig's a gig, you got to go do what you got to do. So,
yeah.
Everybody, check out Vinny's new music. The band again is called Scream Taker. There's a video. It's very cool. Just go on YouTube, put in Scream Taker. It'll come up. Is the record out or it's coming out, Vin?
Oh, it's out. It just came out last week, so it's available once you go. Google it and you'll get the links and all that stuff. So,
all right. So cool. Full album, search it on your music outlets, or of course physically. Scream Taker is the band, and again, you can see some video content on YouTube right now. Great to catch up with you, man. Always good to visit with you and talk with you. And
one last
hope to
plug.
see you. Yeah, go ahead.
One last plug. On Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, I do a drum stream on Facebook, Vinny Appice Official. Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time. And it's a lot of fun. I tell stories. I play some music, and it's good. I've been doing this for 2 years. We thought it'd only last a couple of months, so it's really cool. And
is it live? You do it live?
Yeah, it's live. I do it from my studio.
So 4 o'clock Pacific.
Good drum sound too.
Well, you always have a good drum sound. But 4 o'clock Pacific on what day?
On every Tuesday. Every Tuesday.
And what do people do? They just go on YouTube and put. They just put your name in?
Yeah, you can go Facebook.com/Vinny Appice Official, and it'll come up.
Oh, it's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook, yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, cool.
Big, production number. It's one camera, and I got a killer drum sound from streaming through Facebook. That's what I mean. Because it can get hairy with streaming and sound.
Sure. And what did people tell you, like their favorite licks you played or something? You show them how you do it, or what is it?
Yeah. I'll play to some songs, and then I'll come up. It's almost avant-garde now. I'll just go, I like that, what I just played. Here's what I'm playing. Here's a slow down. Then I stress how you got to play this stuff, which is the most important thing is slow and steady until you get it. Then you get the speed. A lot of guys want to speed up right away, and it's all sloppy, and it doesn't work, So I give hints and tips, and I'll show it and slow it down, and then we ask questions at the end. They write in questions, and I'll answer what kind of head do you use, and then what does Ronnie like to do before the show?
Right. Very cool. All right, everybody check that out. Tuesdays, 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern on Vinny's Facebook. Getting a little insights and drum lessons and stuff like that from one of the greats. Vin, thank you, man. Great to talk with you. Hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. Take care.
All right, we'll see you. You got it. Bye. Scream Taker, everybody. Check out Scream Taker. That is Vinny's new project, or something he's doing on the side of Last in Line. Obviously, his commitment still very much Last in Line. New music coming. They just did shows, West Coast shows coming up, and then they'll continue doing that around Vivian's schedule with Def Leppard. But really, obviously, there are so many of these bands that come out, and people know they're just, as Vinny called them, paper bands, that they're assembled in a studio. The people never meet each other. They're just, let's put this guy with this guy and throw a record out. And you just know it's got no legs. It's never going to, in many cases, they never even play a live show, these sort of assembled bands. And I think a lot of people thought Last in Line was that when it first came together. And clearly it's not, because they've hung in there with this. They're really building this. They tour, they play shows. Vivian's been committed to it. And obviously now 2 or 3 completely new albums of original material. So the commitment to this as they continue with it is really cool. And it's really a great band. If you've not seen Last in Line, go do it, because they really are very, very good live. And you get the Dio stuff in there too, played by half of the guys from the original Dio band. Unfortunately, I'm not going to get Vinny to bowl this year, but I'm waiting on news on this, you guys, and I'll let you know. The Dio Bowling charity event is back after missing it for a couple years because of COVID restrictions, and it's happening and been announced, if you're not aware yet, for November 17th, and it's at Pins, which is a bowling alley in Studio City, California. Same place we've done it every year. It's a great time. Tons of people come out. You can pay an admission to come down and just watch, or you can pay a fee to get your own lane, put your own team together, and bowl shoulder to shoulder with all sorts of big names in rock music. It's a fun, fun night, and 100% of the proceeds goes to the Dio Cancer Fund. And every year, I auction off a spot on my team, and the highest bidder gets to bowl with me on my team, which usually has most of the big name people on it. So we definitely are going to do that again. I'm just waiting for the green light as far as when we can announce the auction aspect of it. But if you want to get a ticket to come in, or you want to get a lane and put your own team together, go to diocancerfund.org, and all the information on signing up, donating, or being a part of it if you're in Southern California on November 17th is there. I've had some great times doing this over the years, and I'm super glad that it's back, and got to start thinking about assembling my team of players. It's a lot of fun, and you don't have to be a good bowler or anything. It's not about that. It's just about celebrating Ronnie and making money for the Dio Cancer Fund. So that is coming up in a little over a month from now. And get more information on that online, and join us if you can.